Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video, and we're talking Battlefront 2. Yeah, this is probably going to be a little bit of a negative video. I don't do many things where I complain or criticize, but this one kind of deserves it. I have been a huge fan. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Everybody knows that about me. And in 2015, when the first Battlefront game from EA and DICE came out, I loved it. Thought it was great. Play the heck out of it. I have joked that my PlayStation 4 probably has Battlefront 2015 etched permanently on the hard drive because of the amount of times I have played that game. It is my golden game. I love that original 2015. Even though it had many missing things, it was great. Everything I was really looking for, mainly. Then, a year or two later, EA announced a sequel, Battlefront 2, which is what I'm showing all the footage of here. And I remember thinking when the 2015 game came out, The Force Awakens was in theaters around that time, so sure, there was Jakku and a smattering of other references to the newer film, but where are all the sort of new World Order stormtroopers that Finn is dressed up as? Like, where's all that content? I would assume this is going to come to Battlefront, and it never did. And I was okay with that because even though I do actually have some appreciation and liking for the newer trilogy, Swifto's asked me about that. I'll do a video about it another time. I just thought, okay, I'm okay with the fact that this original 2015 Battlefront is only the original trilogy. That's cool by me. So then, as with all things video game, there was going to be a sequel. EA announced that they're doing Battlefront 2, and lo and behold, it has all of that newer content, the Rey and Finn era of enemies and different vehicles, etc., etc. And there was also going to be representation of the prequel trilogy, the sort of Jar Jar Binks era, with Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi and battle droids and different fights on different planets, Naboo, etc. And I thought, oh, okay, so they are doing the other eras of Star Wars. I get that. That makes sense. Okay, sure. But one of the first things that really kind of turned me off this other version, this vision of what Battlefront 2 was going to include, I wasn't really on board with, and it was this the old commercial joke of the 1970s is, hey, you've got your chocolate in my peanut butter, and you've got your peanut butter in my chocolate. They were showing how you would have the heroes of the different eras sort of interacting with each other. And I was scratching my head. I'm like, okay, so wait a minute. So we're going to have like Kylo Ren fighting Mace Windu on the snowy ice world of Hoth? That just doesn't really make sense. And I don't think I really want that mixture of the different genres. Like, keep them all in their own little silos, sure. But when I was watching stuff, and here's some footage of me as Princess Leia with General Grievous running around and fighting me. I'm like, what? This is not something I'm really thrilled about, and I don't think I'm really gonna maybe get that one. I mean, as much as I like the expanded look and the Starfighter combat, I think looks really cool, you're mixing the worlds in a way that just doesn't really... I'm not interested. I think I might just stick with my original Battlefront 2015. And then the other shoe dropped. There was the big loot crate controversy. I don't need to really go into it too much detail, but yes, essentially, whether it was EA or DICE who were responsible for this, probably EA, the desire or the decision had been made, let's make this like a mobile game where you unlock loot crates and maybe you'll get an increase in your character's powers, or maybe your ship will turn a bit faster. You don't know what's going to happen when you open that loot crate. And it turned out to be kind of a pay-to-win. I remember at the time the game had come out, when it was finally released, somebody had actually done some numbers. There were people who I guess have deeper pockets than me, had sunk a few $100s into these loot crates and managed to get their A-Wing fighter to be the best one on the battlefield. And I just thought, okay, no, I'm out. I am so against the idea behind this game. Not getting it. No way. Never going to happen. In fact, and there's also the big controversy about, governors were then going to step in and take EA to court over this. You're introducing a gambling mechanic in a game that is very much aimed at kids. I mean, say what you will about Call of Duty or Battlefield or any of those, rated M for mature, etc. This is a Star Wars game that Disney has as their flagship intellectual property. If you're turning this into something that is getting kids hooked on a gambling mechanic, we're taking you to court. So this did not turn out very well for EA and or DICE, and it was quite easy for me to step away and go, well, I'm glad I'm never going near that thing. In fact, around 2 Christmases ago, I felt the need to get a second PlayStation 4 because in where I've got my PSVR set up is in another room, and we just figured, it's easier to have a PS4 dedicated in that room for VR, and then our original PS4 is in the living room for all the other gaming that we do, like this Battlefront 2 footage you're seeing right now. And so when I was getting that second PS4, it was around the time that the Battlefront 2 was released, and there was even a PS4 that was themed as per the Black TIE Fighter character that is sort of part of the single player. And we very specifically went in to buy it, and we said, we do not want the Battlefront one. And the guy was like, well, what are you talking about? It's got, I think it was on sale or something like that. Clearly the bad reputation that was happening for Battlefront 2 was already affecting sales of the console. I think I had it for $50 off, and I said, no, I'm going to stick to my principles. I would rather pay the extra $50 for a non-Battlefront 2 themed PlayStation 4. So that was that. Okay, so now you must be asking yourself, wait a minute, now you've got Battlefront 2. What's going on? What was the sudden turnabout on your so-called principles? This month, in June, Battlefront 2 went free for PlayStation Plus players. And of course, I have PlayStation Plus because I've been playing the heck out of a lot of VR stuff online, multiplayer, and the Battlefront 2015. Love that, so I kept my PlayStation Plus membership going. And when I saw this was one of the free games, I thought to myself 2 things. First of all, I thought, isn't that interesting? There had been news a couple weeks before the beginning of June that EA and DICE had released the final bit of new content for Battlefront 2. All the latest maps. I mean, they have reversed out all the loot box stuff, or the loot crate stuff, we can get to in a second. 6 months ago or something, they had actually completely revamped the game. I think they had realized that this game was a stinker. It's not selling. They got all this legal stuff floating around, so they were just like, okay, you win. We're going to pull all that loot crate stuff out of the game. We're going to redesign the entire system so that you can earn a way to power up your characters. You get these loot crates for either basically aesthetic things like, emotes and that kind of thing, victory poses. Nothing that's actually game-breaking. We're going to do away with all that kind of stuff. And they were releasing a lot of content. A lot of new characters were coming out, a lot of new maps. And I had heard people who had stuck with the game through thick and thin throughout the year or two saying, Battlefront 2 is totally worth getting now. It's so good. And I thought, no, I'm sorry. Not interested. Just going to stay with my principles on this one. And even when it was on sale for like $3 or $4, I was just like, no, I'm not giving EA a dime of my money for this atrocity that they released. So again, you're asking yourself, well, why now? Why have you changed your tune? Just because it's on PlayStation Plus, what does that mean? Well, because the game was doing so well and had all this new content coming out, the couple weeks before June, DICE and EA had kind of said, okay, everybody, this is it. This is the last bit of new content for the title. We're not doing any more characters, not doing any more worlds. This is it. It's all over. Enjoy. The ship has sailed. We've tied a bow on it, and away it goes. And apparently there was actually a petition out, and it's reached thousands of signatures saying, please, EA or DICE, please give us more content. We love this game. It is now the game it should have been originally. Please keep going. We, the fan base, are passionate. We love this game. We're recommending it to everybody. Please keep going. And then June struck, and it's like, yeah, nah, it's free on PS Plus. Off you go. And I sat there laughing. I was like, really? Now, I'm going to put this in EA's responsibility. Basically, EA have had this nightmare for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever, and have now decided, you know what? To heck with it. Screw it. It's now free. We just want to walk away from this train wreck. We don't want anything more to do with it. There you go, everybody. It's awesome there's this passionate fan base with their petition and their cries of please make more content. No, it's free. We're done. Go. Leave it. And that to me was, I don't know, like a just irony. I just thought to myself, you know, I'd always thought, what if someday, years down the road, they put it up for free? I didn't expect it to happen this quickly. I thought, well, maybe if it's going to ever be on PS Plus, maybe I'll finally find out if it had been the game all these people were recommending finally. And it's good timing that they're doing it this quickly because it means there is still the fan base playing it. So now is a good time to actually hop in. There's lots of people. In fact, I have heard there have been way more people. There's been a huge spike in new players joining the game ever since it went free. But that's not why I really joined in. I more so wanted to just bring this thing full circle of like, okay, so EA have essentially given all of the fans of this game the middle finger and said, okay, we don't care anymore. I'm not going to pay any attention to this petition of yours. We're releasing it for free. We've had it. We're walking away. Done. Now, it's not like EA are doing this completely as a washing their hands, walking away, that's the end of it, etc. I do notice whenever you go into Battlefront 2, right on the main page there, they're very clearly saying, you know, hey, don't you want to get the celebration upgrade? So maybe this is a little bait and switch of like, you know what, we might as well see if we can milk a final penny or two out of this terrible game. And those people who got it for free for PlayStation Plus for June, hey, why don't you give us some money for the celebration upgrade? And at least that way we can maybe bring in some final bit of cash out of this thing. I'm certainly not going to buy that thing, but I did decide, you know what, for free, I'm going to finally get this game, I'm going to see what it's like, and I'm going to set aside the history, the Loot Crate controversy, all that kind of stuff, and just go, okay, since I've been handed this game for free, let's try it out. Is it actually, does it have any redeeming qualities? A final thing on the why are they doing this, I was watching somebody talking about all this stuff, and he was saying, yeah, probably EA are out to just fish, hook a few more people with the celebration upgrade as a last-minute bit of cash they can rake in. But also, DICE are probably working on a new Battlefield game, and they don't want Battlefront 2 to be in any way any kind of competition. I mean, it's about their only really profitable game right now. The previous Battlefield game, what was that, number 5, with the weird World War II vibe that's sort of steampunky, that didn't do well, so I think since they're working on a new Battlefield game, they probably thought, okay, we need to distance ourselves from Battlefront, so let's get it out there, let people play it, and then it'll no longer be the conversation when our new Battlefield game comes out. So I think that's what happened. That's why we have Battlefront 2 available for everybody to just pick it up for free now. So I've done the kind of the negative ranty part of what's going on with the history of this game and why I said no way, but then turned the tables, did a 180 and decided, yeah, sure, if it's free, I'll totally take it, so that I could form a proper new perspective on this game that I got for nothing. So I will now talk about what is the good and bad about Battlefront 2 as it stands today, in my opinion. Well, let's start with the positives. The game looks amazing. I mean, it is better looking, I would say, than the 2015 Battlefront. Now, Battlefront 2015 looks really, really nice, but these are much larger maps, way more detailed. There's a level of polish and shine to these games that is just head and shoulders above what the previous game had. The characters, like the animation, everything that's going on as far as the imagery is concerned, top marks. Looks fantastic. The ships, you now have fighter combat in a much more expanded version. Now, Star Wars Squadrons has just recently been announced, and you're darn well I'm going to get that one, because playing an X-Wing game in VR is what I've always wanted. There are X-Wing missions and other era missions in this Battlefront 2, and that's a lot better than the Squadron Assault thing that was possible in the 2015 Battlefront. So I really like what fighter missions there are. I really like what is possible with the new game as far as the different modes is concerned. It's a little confusing when you launch right off the bat. There's just a big Play Now button, which will launch whatever happens to be either closest or the largest number of players right now. And if you are not wanting to do a fighter game, you might get thrown into one of those. So you can then navigate to the multiplayer map or selection, which is kind of weirdly buried, and this is something other people have complained about. They buried a lot of modes way off the main menu item. You have to go to multiplayer, and then you've got Conquest, which is not a very good mode in that it's very long. It's this back and forth fighting on multiple fronts. It's a long session. And you've got heroes versus villains in a variety of different types, like the thing I was doing with Princess Leia earlier. This is where you can find Battle Squadron. There is Blast, which is just good old-fashioned shooting, shoot 'em up stuff. There's Galactic Assault, which I think is the closest to the I want to play for a little while, but I don't want to be locked in for a 45-minute play session. What is really sad is there's no AT-AT Assault. I mean, there are AT-ATs in the Galactic Assault mode, but the best mode that was in Battlefront 2015, where you're taking on walkers and you have to turn off the silos in order to reduce their shields, that's gone, and that's really too bad, because Walker Assault was the best thing in Battlefront 2015. I've read a few forum posts. I was just making sure. I was researching to see, is that true? They really took it out? And somebody made a comment, I think it was on Reddit, that as awesome as Walker Assault was in 2015, there was this sort of tendency that if you didn't want to play Supremacy, not Conquest, Supremacy was the mode I was trying to think of earlier. If you want to play Supremacy or Drop Pod mode or Heroes versus Villains, it's kind of like, no, you play Walker Assault or Get Out. Like, there were very few other modes being played. And now, with the new system, they've got this Play Now, which is quite often Supremacy. And if you want to play anything else, you have to navigate to it. And they've buried some stuff like Extraction, which was brought across from Battlefront 2015. That's there if you want to navigate to it, but nobody's playing it. There's not, even with the new increase of players into the game, not that many people are doing Fighter Squadron, or Squadron Assault, whatever it's called. That's okay. There's going to be a new fighter game, and so playing as Luke Skywalker trying to shoot down battle droids is not really going to be a thing that bothers me anymore. I'm glad about that. But this is sort of the thing that is good and bad with the new game, is that, yeah, there's some really nice things. The graphics are great, and the expanded Fighter Squadron mode is there, but it's a clunky, kludgy menu system you have to navigate in order to find any of this stuff. Other criticisms I have. I don't really like how the characters are upgraded. Now, this is where the past shell of the loot crate system really makes itself obvious. You do have to kind of upgrade each character individually. Your your soldier, your officer, your jetpack guy, they all need to be slowly increased in level, each individually. And you can maybe earn the ability to improve how well you can throw a grenade or how fast your weapon cools down, that kind of thing. It feels very loot crate-y. I mean, I can tell this is the bare bones of where that loot crate stuff used to exist. And I don't like the mechanic of that. Never mind how that was wrecking the game originally. But more that, like, in the 2015 version, you've got your soldier and you can outfit him or her with other stuff like a jetpack or a sniper rifle or whatever. In this one, you're the soldier guy, or you're the sniper guy, or you're the officer guy and the heavy guy with the machine gun. Which, as a side note, that also doesn't seem to fit the Star Wars universe. Having a guy with, like, basically a howitzer as a laser rifle, it's where the game doesn't feel like Star Wars so much for me, and a little bit more like just a generic World War II shooter, almost like a Call of Duty thing. Maybe more of a modern warfare, but still, it doesn't seem to fit. Now, I know there was a bit in Attack of the Clones when a clone trooper jumped onto a robot and he did shoot what was kind of like a machine gun at it. So it's not like this is completely alien to the Star Wars universe, but it just doesn't feel right to me. And a lot of these different characters that you play, you can be an Ewok on Hoth. It's a little weird. It's where the gaminess of this video game really reveals itself. It doesn't feel like Star Wars too much in that way. Let's flip it to something more positive that is Star Warsy, though. Some of the places that we had in the first game, like Hoth and Endor, are there again, but much larger, with way more things to do. I really like what they've done with revisiting those old places. And now we have new classic locations like Tatooine. We can actually run around Mos Eisley. You can be in the cantina in Mos Eisley. Or you can stop the Imperials from attacking the rebel base on Yavin 4. Like, there's a lot of really nice new locations that are a lot of fun to visit. I do like that about it. But there are many other locations that are either from the prequel trilogy, the Jar Jar Binks stuff, the newer trilogy with Rey and Finn. Yeah, sure, okay. There's even some, I don't even know if they were just made up for the game. There's like a military shipyard that I think is probably from the single-player campaign and not anything based on a movie. And I kind of like, I don't really care about these locations. I really just want to play. It would be nice if I could choose where I want to play and not have to randomly be selected for, hey, you're going to be on Naboo and you're going to be droids this time around. It's like, I don't really, can I opt not to? I think there might eventually be a Battlefront 3, and I'm kind of hoping they allow us to put little silos over everything and play just the original trilogy or just the Jar Jar Binks trilogy. But I'm pretty sure if they did that, nobody would play anything other than the original trilogy. I guess we'll see. And to wrap things up, I'll talk about the single-player campaign that's wrapped up in this. Now, a lot of people complained with the Battlefront 2015. There was nothing but multiplayer and only a handful of maps. What the heck? This game does have a single-player campaign in it. You're playing the sort of TIE fighter pilot lady. You've all seen her in the ads, and she's interesting, and it's kind of unique to be playing things from the Empire's point of view. But I have a few issues with the overall single player. Now, I'm glad it's there, and I've played a good chunk of it. I've heard people say, now, I have not completed it in the time to do this video, but I've played a good several hours of the single player campaign. I've heard people say that while initially it's got some really good bones on it, after a certain point, you do kind of just end up with what are glorified matches against AI. Like, you're basically just doing the same thing you would do in the standard Galactic Assault mode or Supremacy or any of those other things, just now with cutscenes in it. But basically, it's just a slightly removed from the normal multiplayer mode kind of thing that's going on there. Whereas the beginning, where you're infiltrating the rebel groups and you're sneaking around and you're doing all these things as a TIE fighter pilot, the beginning of the single player game is really good, they say, then it starts to deteriorate. I was kind of out very early in the single player game for a couple of reasons. First of all, we are introduced to Iden Versio, I think it's how you pronounce it, as she's being held captive by some rebels on a transport. And it's a scene that just doesn't resonate well with me as a Star Wars fan. I kind of get this feeling that either DICE or the writers or somebody in the creative team that put together the single-player campaign must have been thinking to themselves, ooh, wouldn't it be edgy and different if we showed what if the rebels were actually the bad guys and the Empire was the good guys the whole time along? Like, there's things that the rebel commander is saying to Iden that are just like, you know, we're going to get what we want from you. And it's just like, it doesn't work for me. Now, I'm very much a good guy, liking, you know, the Luke Skywalker story is what really compels me with Star Wars. There are those who really love Darth Vader. I mean, my manager at work has a Darth Vader statue. There are people who are in the 501st Legion. They love Stormtroopers. So the single-player game, it's at least at first, is more cut out for you guys than it is for me. I can sort of enjoy being the Empire when required. Like when you do multiplayer, it's a flip of the coin if you play for the good guys or the bad guys. So yeah, sure, I'll do that. And with that upcoming Squadrons game, you're going to be a Rebel pilot for some of it, then you're going to be an Imperial pilot for some of it, and I'm fine with that. Heck, I even enjoyed the original TIE Fighter game on the computer, the old DOS game. So I have a background of playing the villain in this universe, but I really I kind of got my nose out of joint when I was seeing them painting the rebels in this not so nice light. And secondly, there's a bit where Iden's leading her crew on Endor after the second Death Star is destroyed, and they're taking out rebels with snipers, and they're like this elite, you know, spec ops group, and I'm playing this thing kind of out of force of need to do so for this video, but I'm thinking to myself, Stormtroopers can't hit the side of a bus. Like, this seems so off-brand for the Imperials to have this spec ops group, and they're all, you know, discussing things together, and they've got this camaraderie. It's like, no. I don't know who at DICE was watching the Star Wars trilogy or any of the Star Wars films, but like, this doesn't fit. This is not in keeping with the theme of the game. And minor spoiler here for the single player game that is many years old. I'm sure I'm not spoiling it much. From what I gather later on in the story, I definitely reached a point where Iden's starting to like question her superiors, and eventually, you know, she's got a heart of gold, so of course she ends up working for the rebels. And it's like it's that shtick that we've seen a lot of times. A bit that I did enjoy from single player that leads into this is one of Iden's companions actually meets up with Luke Skywalker, a la Return of the Jedi in his black outfit. And they go on this weird crystalline planet. The level itself isn't all that great, but it's kind of neat to see Luke, and you're alongside him in this adventure and it maybe communicates a little more of like, this is why these Imperial pilots eventually side with the rebels toward the end of the story. And it's nice, but it's more of a silver lining to what I find is very... It just doesn't work right. It's not for me. I don't like that about the single-player game. Anyway, this video's gotten long enough, so I'm going to stop here. But yeah, Battlefront 2. I'm glad it's been sort of tossed over the fence by EA and DICE to give it to us for free. Thank you. I know you don't really care what your fans think. That group of people who are all writing that petition for more content, you can put that petition away, guys. They don't care. They want to maybe suck a few more pennies out of people who are going to buy this Celebration Edition upgrade. They're trying to get this off the table so they can work on the next Battlefield game. This is by no means a nice gesture from the producers of this terrible sequel. And the game in and of itself it's got its bonuses, its good parts, but I honestly think I prefer the original. I think I still like Battlefront 2015. It doesn't have as much flexibility. There aren't as many cool features and extras, and by no means there's way more characters, both the troops and also the heroes and villains in this game. Many more worlds that look amazing. Top marks on that stuff. But outside of that, I'm not really a fan. I had a way better time playing Battlefront 2015. I may continue to actually do it. I'm not taking it off the hard drive just because I've got this on here. I'll be interested to see if I'm still playing this in 6 months. Anyway, until next time, I'll see you down the rabbit hole.